Welcome, everybody, to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top real estate investing podcasts on iTunes for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and, of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your new hosts, Elliott Smith and Cole Rudd Johnson.
Hey, guys, welcome to the Real Dealz podcast episode this week. Super excited to have you. Man, crazy week it's been this week. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the news. I think everybody knows, but this is a week that's going to go down in infamy for the little guy, for the Main Street versus Wall Street, you know, mom and pop versus the big Goliaths. This is the week that GME, GameStop, the stock itself has been going bananas. How a band of merry men on Reddit freaking sunk a hedge fund. So before I get into that too much, I do want to delve in a little bit. Really excited about this week's show, guys. We got Cody Bugan on. Cody is a high-level investor, land developer. So I don't know if we've had, or Tucker's had very many of these guys on the show like this, but, you know, we've had Artem in the past that, you know, does apartment development where he's, you know, taking properties and then building these, you know, 10 to 20 unit apartment buildings down in LA. But really excited for this show because I've actually been trying to get into land development for the last 2 years. And it's not easy, I know, but it's not that difficult either. So let me unpack that a little bit. So it was probably mid 2019. I kind of wanted to move upstream. I'm not a huge fan of fix and flips. You know, I love that. My favorite part about this business is the deals. I'm really good at sales. I'm really good at connecting with people. I really enjoy that part of the process, but I hate the rehab and I hate dealing with contractors. That's not fun for me. I also get excited when we sell the property. So my wife and I have done a really good job staying in the entry-level flips. You know, we're not doing major rehabs. We have no desire to go do these $100,000, $200,000 remodels. Just one, I don't have the stomach for it or the patience for the longevity and how long they take. And in my markets, they really don't, there's not a ton of those. So you're really going to be going into an uncomfortable area. It's not like you're in a Seattle or San Francisco or in Austin where you know what you're kind of getting yourself into if you put like basically a brand new house out there that's a $200,000 remodel. So never really had the opportunity. And the ones that we ever did get, we just wholesale them off to people that specialize more in that stuff in our market. So I was looking, you know, we always stated that we were making $30,000 to $100,000 on our flips, entry level, maybe step up home flips. And so I see these guys doing land development. This is back when the market was starting to tighten up quite a bit. And I'm like, man, I really want to do that. It's the same process in my mind. I got to go find land and I just tie it up. I, you know, put some roads in, get some permits, call it a good day. Well, the problem with land development in a lot of ways really is you got to know the development costs. You got to know the permitting costs. You got to know the timelines. You got to know all these things. And there's really no book out there. There's no, you know, spreadsheet that says this is what your costs are going to be because it varies by city to municipality. It just varies immensely. And so you really got to go figure that out. But a lot of the developers in town are these second generation guys, these big guys that don't want to talk to you. They're the developer builders, all this stuff. And so it's really hard to go find those numbers and get those numbers and jump in. So I missed a ton of deals that I should have got because I always offered way too low because I didn't want to tie them up. And I missed a lot of deals, but you know, I started having those conversations and talking to people. And then last year at the end of 2019, we bought a little 5-acre development property with a partner. Ended up, we're still sitting on that. We're going to try to put a lot more property on there than it's zoned for. So we're going to rezone it and things like that, which is fine. And then I worked last year on an 85 lot townhome development deal that was ours to lose, but we lost it. It was very sad. It was an A+ product in the best part of our town. And we didn't show the seller enough confidence in our offer and the team that I put together. And it was my fault. And so we lost that. And so I've been trying to get into this stuff. So I met Cody about 6 months ago with some buddies down in Arizona golfing. And he was a land developer and he had to ride in my car for 18 holes. And so, man, I just picked his brain the whole time. We became friends. And he's done really well on land development. And the cool thing about this episode is you're going to think it's high level and it's at some point where you're kind of getting out of your skis, but it's really not that much harder. It's probably actually easier than flipping houses than you think, and probably easier once you start getting to figure this out. And the great thing is, if you're anything like my market or most people's market that we know from the call center, the markets are tight. The markets are, there's less than a month of inventory in most areas. There is no new houses. There's no resale properties, and it's hard to find inventory. And so what is needed in the market is inventory. And so, yeah, we're going to get some of that from the resale market, but they just haven't built enough houses that, after 2008, it wiped out 80% of the developers. And some of the guys that did come back, it took them 6, 7, 8 years to come back in the market. So there was a huge constriction on supply that there was just, for years, there was no new supply of new developments. And so that, with now super low interest rates, we're kind of at a tipping point where the market is just, people need housing. There's a I think the last number I looked at was 2.3 million housing units that were short in this country. And so really, this is a great opportunity, because if you can source off-market deals like most of you can, since you're listening to this show, if you can turn some of your marketing machines onto land development on these 5, 10, 15 acre parcels that maybe are entry-level housing, there is a line of institutional, publicly traded, regional size development companies and home building companies that are paying a freaking premium and not making it and cutting their margins really tight, because they don't have anything. They don't have any inventory. They have to keep going. They're a publicly traded company. They have to move their money. So really, really think there's a lot of value in this episode. I learned a lot, and I asked a lot of questions selfishly of what I want to know and how I'm doing this. And, we're putting a full marketing campaign in for development right now. So we've been working on this. We went through our town. We labeled all my areas in Tri-Cities. We labeled everything, 1 to 4, for the highest priority properties and different types of marketing pieces. And we're going to go after this. We also tied up last week a half-acre property we're going to put a 13 unit on. So that's really exciting there. We've tied it up for a couple weeks ago, but we're closing on it next week. I just got the funding lined up this week. So we're getting into the development, and it's one of those things, guys. I just keep putting it out in the world, and the opportunities start coming in a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, because you're starting to talk into your sphere. Hey, I'm looking for land. I'm looking for this, all these things. So really dive into this episode. Another cool thing that happened with us this week was we bought a property back in September. It was a probate deal. We bought it for $117. It didn't need much work. It was paint, carpet, lipstick, not a ton of stuff. And we were going back and forth whether we keep it as a rental. And we kind of just sat on it for a while, because we've been turning over a lot of units at our 24 units. So my contractor was tied up. I actually, at one point, I tried to sell it. I posted it on my local Facebook group for $160 to see if anybody wanted to buy it. I had a couple guys offer us, like one guy offered me $160, and he wanted us to carry the contractor. It was like $150. And I'm like, at the time I thought I was going to put 20 to 25 into this, and I was going to sell for like $209. So I didn't want to leave that much meat on the bone, because we had bought it with our own cash, and it didn't hurt us to sit on it. So end up getting it done, finally get it listed this week. We're all in at 137, 138, somewhere in there. Listed at 219.9. My wife's the realtor, listed it. And within a freaking hour, we have an offer at 235. And just really, then we had like 6 or 7 other offers come in. And it just shows that there's no inventory. And the crazy thing about that is this is a house in our town that's like a 1945. It's not a big house. It's a 2-1. Chrissy, my wife, she bought a house that's the exact same floor plan, because back in the 40s and 50s when Hanford was being built, they built a lot of the same housing. And so same kind of type of property. We had been putting that on our net worth, even 18 months ago, we thought it was like worth 165. Maybe we put on our net worth thing a couple weeks ago, or like a couple months ago, when we were getting financing for the 8 unit, we put that it was worth like 190. Same house. Now it's 230. I don't know if it's going to appraise, we'll see, but it's just, it's crazy out there in this market. So sitting on it actually helped us. So, let us know, let me know on my Instagram, hit me up on Instagram if you guys have got lucky sitting on some houses. All I'm thinking now is, man, I wish I would have bought more. I wish I wouldn't have slowed down a little bit last year, but it is what it is. We're looking pretty good. We got some other properties, got a property locked up today in Vancouver. So going good. So anyway, let's get into really quick, guys. I know it's a little bit longer of an intro, but I just think there's a lot to unpack this week. And so GameStop, this is a crazy, crazy deal that I think everybody's talking about. And so the funny thing is, I've been swing trading AMC call options for the last 6 months. I was playing the pandemic. I have a fun money account that it was used for gambling and things like that. And I've been trading these options. I ran them up when they were, everybody thought they were going to open up. And then when they got high, I sold them and bought some options, some puts on the back end and doing that. So I saw this kind of come in a little bit. Now, I'm not any genius, so this is all luck. But I had some options last week, did pretty well on the AMC. It was running up. And so on Tuesday, I actually sold I had some in the money contracts at $3 strike price contracts. I sold those and I repositioned because I read some stuff on this Wall Street Reddit thread on that Wall Street Bets. And I'm like, these guys are going to go after run up AMC. It was one of the stocks that was heavily shorted. So I sell my stuff and I go buy the cheapest option contract so I can get as many as I possibly can. So I go buy January 2022, year out, $22 strike price contract. And this time when I did this, the stock was trading at like $4.95. There's no reason for it to go that high. So I buy 40 contracts of that, sold it 24 hours later at $11.75 a contract. So went and turned that $4,000 into $47,000, and I had a couple other plays in there. Sold it. Well, before I sold it, I was, I woke up in the morning and I looked at my account and my thing had gone up from like $8,000 to like 50 or 45 or something like that. And I'm like, told Chrissy, I'm freaking buying a truck today. If this goes up high enough, I'm going to go buy a truck. And so sure enough, I'm waiting. I'm not selling. I'm like, these guys are going to keep running it up. I was talking to a buddy on the way to the gym and I dropped back down to like 32,000. So I'm like, shit, there goes my truck. And I do my workout and I'm talking and it jumps back up to like 45,000. So I come home and do a couple things for work and I go to Chrissy. I'm like, hey, let's go to the Ford dealership. Let's just see what they have. So I go in there and I tell the guy, I'm like, here's my stock account. And this is still actively traded. It can go up or it can go down. If we make a deal on the right truck at the right price, I'll trade my truck in and I will sell these. But if they go down, we're all screwed. So we start test driving this new F-150. And as I'm driving, I'm like, I see it go back up. So I put a sell order on my stocks at $11.75. And I hear it as I'm driving this test drive, I hear it ding, 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 ding. It starts selling these contracts. Sure enough, freaking cashed out $47,000. Was able to use all that money plus a trade in and buy a brand new F-150, get some extras on it, So we're very frugal. This is my fun money that I use for like going on golf trips with my buddies or going to the casino or doing something crazy. And so it was, we would never buy a new truck. I would never buy a new car for the most part. And so my wife's like, hey, it's your money. You earned it. If you want to spend it on this, go ahead. And so, pretty cool week for me. I was on cloud 9 all day. So anyway, I didn't do anything great, but it's like I was walking through the casino and put $1 on a slot machine and just got lucky. So, one thing I can say though, guys, really is I'm not giving you any financial advice. Take your own advice, do your own research. But in my opinion, it looks like it's kind of ran its course and it's getting crazy because now everybody's getting into it. So I'm going to stick to my day job as a real estate investor and finding really good deals off market and negotiating with sellers really well. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm also going to try to unpack, listen to this episode a couple of times myself, because there's so much good advice in here from Cody that I just think you can't help but grow in this episode. And the cool thing about the development deals is it's a lot kind of like this stock market deal. If you hit a couple of these correct, there is 6 possibly even 7-figure paydays if you hit these correctly. And you don't even have to be the one putting the money in for the development, things like that. There's different stages you can sell out. And so Cody really dives into that. And so guys, this is the time when there needs to be action. This is a time where this is going to, how do you put it? It's going to separate the boys from the men in a lot of ways. This is a time to dig down deep. If you're not getting leads, go out there and door knock. Go out there and drive for dollars and cold call yourself. Go out there and hit the streets. There are deals to be found. The most important person in this business right now, and anything having to do with real estate, is the guy finding the deals. Sharpen your axe. Work on your phone skills. Listen to yourself on the phone calls. Get better. You do what I say. I promise you. I've had 10, 20, 30 people reach out to me in the last couple of months saying, hey, I listened to you. I went driving for dollars. I went and got 500 to 1,000 houses. And I started cold calling them myself for a couple of hours a night. And now I'm talking to people and I think I'm going to get a deal, or I got a deal, or I locked up this deal, or one of the guys that I'm helping that's helping me with my Instagram, he's going to be making a 5-figure paycheck on a deal. And it was 2 weeks in, he got this deal. So guys, it is possible. Just don't be afraid. Get out there, go hustle. So anyway, sorry for the long intro today, guys. I think there was just a lot to unpack. Get out there, hustle. Again, no financial advice on the game stock, things like that. I think this is a crazy world right now. We're really seeing that, the guys have been robbing us blind for a while, and now they're pissed because somebody played them at their own game. So, nobody's going to give you anything in this world. You got to go take it. And anytime you start getting close, they're going to change the rules. So you got to keep pushing, and you got to go take it, and you got to go take it, and you got to go take it. So my inspiration is my family, this life that we can build, and it can be built in real estate. So guys, get after this week. Share your stories on the Real Dealz Instagram page or on our Facebook page. Want to hear what you're doing. I'm paying attention to that stuff. So again, if you can give me a follow on Instagram, Elliott Smith REI. If you ever have any questions or anything, reach out to me, Elliott@callmagicleads.com. I try my best to answer emails. So guys, appreciate you listening and tuning in, and have a great week. Go crush it. And we'll see what crazy things happen next week. I mean, shit, is 2021 going to be worse than 2020? I mean, it's shaping up to be a crazy year. So, all right, guys, thanks.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
What is going on, Real Dealz guest listeners? Super excited. I got my buddy, Cody Bugan, sorry.
Bugan, it's all good.
Bugan, I always mess that up, but we met in Arizona back in November when I was there with our buddy Mike Ayala, who's on the show a couple weeks ago. And we went golfing together. And that first day we went golfing, we just kind of hit it off. And he's from Portland originally, from Lake Oswego, was there doing development. I was just up across the river doing Vancouver stuff. So it's just a small world. Here we are randomly on a golf course in Arizona, and we became friends. And
and I can show our level of friendship because we went to your daughter's first birthday party and there's only 3 couples there and 2 of them were family. So that means that we must have been doing something right. So, or my wife did something right. But anyway, Cody, what's going on?
Oh man. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And for the short time I've known you, I've enjoyed your company and actually learning a few things from you on the golf course. If you guys don't know, this guy's a ringer. So anyways, I've appreciated getting to know you a bit.
Yeah, it's been fun. So why don't we jump in and just why don't you tell people who you are, what you are, where you're from, just give a synopsis of who Cody is.
Well, I'll try to I'll make a long story short. But, so Cody Bugan, I'm married, and I'm on my second marriage to my permanent wife. And I have a 23-year-old son, a 19-year-old daughter, and a 1-year-old daughter. Yeah, there's a whole story there just in its own. But
yeah, that's a totally different podcast.
Born and raised up there.
That'd be another
podcast. Yeah. We could do a whole podcast about that. Yeah. But good stuff, positive stuff, right? So anyways, I was born and raised up there in Oregon in a small town called Damascus. Went to kind of high school out in the boonies, and it's called Sam Barlow High School. But my story is I'm 42 years old, and you heard me mention I have a 23-year-old. So what really kicked my butt into high gear was getting your high school girlfriend pregnant, right? And stuff gets real very quick. Yeah. And I was originally going to head off to ASU and do the whole party screw off thing like so many other kids want to do. And instead I buckled down. I went into the flooring union. And the reason I went into the union is after 3 months, you qualify for full health insurance.
Yep.
And I needed that insurance to be able to pay for my baby along the way. And got married a month after I graduated from high school. I will say that there's another challenge there in itself, but bless her soul, she actually passed away a year after our divorce. She's with our father. She was a believer. She was saved. So, me and the kids can rejoice that she's living it up now with Jesus. So, but anyways, we made it 20 years. It was a tough 20 years. Many challenges along the way, times where I made a lot of dumb decisions to, escape my reality of my life because I was struggling. And, but man, through all the challenges, I took the privilege, about a week ago when I decided I was going to start doing more podcast interviews to start listing out some of the failures and life lessons and challenges and things I've been through. And I got to tell you, the Lord's put me on my knees several times. And so hopefully I'm becoming a little less stubborn in my older age because he's really had to make me submit, right? Because obviously that means I wouldn't submit easily. So, but anyways, been through a lot of goods and bads, ups and downs. But anyways, flooring union ended up going into, running another guy's business. I was just a snot-nosed punk kid at the time. I was 19, but he saw something in me and he gave me a platform to kind of run and did phenomenal things there. And it was all because he trusted in me, made a lot of mistakes, ran over a lot of people because I was so driven, hurt some people.
I think we're very similar in that way. When I started working for Franz, I got management really early. I was the youngest manager in the company out of 2,200 people. And these guys have been working, a lot of these guys I was managing, been doing it for 30 years. And I'm just their union. I'm just running over them, just this asshole, arrogant shit kid that doesn't know how to deal with people. Right. And just running these guys over, man. I think we were talking about the other day, I had the union called on me so many times for my mouth, I talk to people, but I'm just like direct. And it's like, let's go, let's get this stuff done. Right. It's that entrepreneur drive. It's like, I don't want to settle for mediocrity. Right. And you were probably the same way. You just didn't know how to harness it yet. Yeah.
I was just young. Right. And back then I didn't really have mentors in my life. I didn't I didn't really understand personal development. I didn't understand balance. I didn't understand the sacrifices I was making because I was a workaholic, right? Like there's a lot of things I didn't understand. But, it got to a point in that business, done some great things there. We grew it from, don't hold me to this, but I think that business was doing like 70 grand a month. And by the time I left, we were doing $1 million a month. Nice. But anyways, I ended up I started my development business in 2002 with a partner. And there's a whole story there.
What made you pick that? Like, what made you say, I want to do, nobody just wakes up and says, I want to do land development one day.
Yeah, fair enough. So when I was at that company in the flooring industry, a lot of our big customers were like DR Horton or whatever, these big publicly traded companies, or even the large local guys. And I kind of built some relationships there, and I saw the life that these guys are living and the stories that they would tell. And then also, there's a picture behind me. I don't know if there's a clock right there and a picture, and that's my grandfather. And that's his clock he got from the HBA, Home Builders Association, as being the president of the HBA. And, unfortunately, he passed away when I was only 15, but I try to pull inspiration from that. And so and then my dad was a home builder, small little local guy, home builder, didn't know how to delegate, had to drive every nail himself, couldn't trust anybody. So, bless my dad, I wish the best for him, but, I really learned more what not to do, watching my dad versus what to do. But when you take that, you grow up around that, right? And so it's kind of in your blood. And then I'm a subcontractor servicing some of these big accounts. And then what happened was, so in 2002, I was, 24 years old, making good money running this flooring business. And I decided I want to build myself a house. And I want to start kind of dabbling in real estate. There was this piece of land I'd always drive by, right? And there was this big name real estate broker in town. He was phenomenal at branding himself. Everybody knew who he was. And I reach out to him one day and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a piece of land to buy. Can you suggest anything to me? And he suggests this piece of property that I would drive by all the time that would always catch my eye. He's like, I'd buy that piece. And I was like, okay. And, and this is a true story. I call him like maybe 3 weeks later, I don't know, a month later. And I'm basically, I was like, hey, I got that piece tied up. That was a lot of fun, like negotiating that off market deal, getting, whatever. And do you know of any other pieces? Like, I got some additional cash flow, or, money to invest, do you have anything else? And he's like, you got to be kidding me. He said, I was just, he's like, I didn't think you were actually going to go buy it. He's like, I was considering buying that for my own house. And so one thing led to another. We had lunch, hung out. He loved hear again, that young, hungry, driven individual. Yep. And he's like, hey man, I want you to come in and be my partner. Let's go start a development home building business together. Right. So, he probably is the one individual in my life that has had more dramatic impact on my life than anybody, even though our partnership only lasted a couple of years, just because of some foundational things as far as who we are as people. Because like the stuff we teach, right? And this isn't a pitch, but
yeah, but like the foundational issues were like you were still an asshole kid, or like, or was it your fault?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I mean, because that is a true thing. And my partner tells me all the time, Corey, luckily he treats me like a son almost, but he says, he'll tell me sometimes because I'm just trying to run through him. He'd be like, Elliot, I don't effing work for you. Leave, I don't need, I do want to work with you, but I don't work for you. And it's because I don't understand sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, guys. If you're partnering with older guys, I think, listen to that. It's not that he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's just, you got to learn your situations.
Yeah. And that wasn't the case with mine. Mine was more just who we were as people, just foundational, where we were in life as far as what path we were headed down. Yep. Right. I don't want to go deeper than that just because he's a buddy of mine. I care about him. And, but it's just, we didn't quite line up on some foundational stuff who we were as individuals. And so what happens is I just made a choice to go a different direction.
But you kept the friendship alive.
Kept the friendship. Well, it went south at first because I offended him. I hurt his feelings, right? I was this snot-nosed punk kid, and I didn't want to be partners anymore. And he's the man. And so, I hurt his feelings, his ego, whatever it may be. And so it got nasty there for a while. But I think at the end of the day, I have certain respects for him, and he has certain respects for me. So we came back together, a couple of years later. And in between then, there was another business we built that, I was a part of building that was awarded the fastest growing privately held company in the state of Oregon. And he kept that company in our separation. And, he called me a year later, wanting me to buy him out of that business because I was a big part of blowing it up and turning it into this business and scaling it. And that just wasn't him, right? He's a phenomenal salesman and an amazing real estate broker, but didn't enjoy running a business. So there was just a mutual respect there, right? Which brought us back together.
Yep.
And we're still friends to this day. But, I was so flattered that this guy that's the man that wanted to be my partner, I didn't necessarily do my thorough due diligence in that, are we equally yoked to be in bed together, right? It's like a marriage, man. And so I was just so flattered. I jumped at the opportunity, and I can sit here today and say I don't regret it, right? Because, back then, there wasn't the resources, there wasn't the information, there wasn't the coaching and the courses and all these different things there are today.
Yep.
And so because of him, he really provided me the opportunity to play this game. He didn't know development and home building in and out, but he knew enough to get us into the game, and he had the contacts, right? And then what I did is, if you were to go interview my engineers and my contractors and all the different people that were in my life back then and say, who drove you nuts because he asked so many darn questions? Yeah. I'm pretty confident they would say me, because that's the way I got educated. That's the way I learned, right? Was through just drilling people, just a million questions.
Yeah. And guys, we preach this so much, Cody, on our show, because that's how I learn. Is I just call these guys, I use an example of one of my buddies that's from Portland that owns a large portfolio. And I met him, and he said, from a mutual friend, he said, don't ever ask me for money, because I'm never going to give you any money, but I'll talk. Yeah. But then I just kept calling him, asking him questions, telling him what I was doing. And he's getting excited, and he likes answering the phone, because we're all deal junkies at the end of the day. 8 months in, he says, dude, you're giving too many good deals away. I'll give you $300,000 to go buy flips. But it's because guys like you and me and the guys that you were working for, they like helping people that are driven, right? And we really push, yes, you can go buy courses to help you get faster, better, stronger, but go find the guys in your area and go add value to them, because you're adding value to the engineers, because you're bringing them deals, you're bringing them work, you're doing all these things. So they got to talk to you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's what we even preach today to, some of our students that work with us, you got to be hungry, right? And if you take that drive, but you also got to understand the phase of the life you're in. One of the mistakes I made back then in my career was I sacrificed my relationship with my kids when they were really young, because I was so focused on my career. And, I don't believe in regrets and whatnot, but, there was definitely a lesson I learned there. Now being a father again at 42 is, I missed out on some real precious moments that I didn't understand back then. I didn't understand the sacrifices I was making. But so anyways, yeah. So I've been in development, ever since. I got an absolute whooping in 2007. I didn't go bankrupt like a lot of guys around me, but I lost 90% of my net worth. I learned a lot more losing it than I did making it. Here again, back then, when I was 28, I guess if we talk about money a little bit, I was 28 and worth 8 figures, but it came so easy, right? So I didn't understand it. I thought I was the man, right? I mean, here, look at me, right? I'm this guy, right? And everybody look at me like in my shiny stuff. And so I didn't spend any time on personal development back then, and really understanding things like my why, right? And understanding, outflow, giving back and making a difference, which really drives me today. There's so many things I didn't understand because I thought I was the stuff, right? And
I guys,
so anyways,
listen to that, and this is, Cody, why I've kind of gravitated towards you and tried to be friends with you and try to, want to be around you, is because I'm you at 28, right? I mean, we've had a lot of success. I screwed up, I had a lot of success early on at Franz. I screwed up a lot with my marriage, when we went full time. And then, now we have a 2-year-old, and, now I'm grinding with these new businesses, and it's the cool thing, guys, is you can find people of like who you want to be, and they can guide you through this life and say, I've been there, kid. You're not that much older than me, but you've been there. Elliot, what are you doing? Where's the family? Or you're talking about your family and your focuses and what's important, but yet you're still growing a successful business, but you're also putting priorities with family now. And you got a second chance at that, which most people don't. So it's really, this is why I'm super happy to have Cody on the show. One, he's got to talk to me for an hour or more. And two, but it's just, these are the type of men that you really want to surround yourself with, is guys that have been there, that are a couple of steps ahead of you, but they're also wiser, stronger, faster in a lot of ways. So really, really hear that and really go try to find that guy or girl in your area that maybe that you look up to, and just try to add value to them, and then they'll add value back to you.
That's mature of you to understand that. And you've come to understand that almost a decade before I did.
Yeah.
And it's made all the difference. I think when I was younger and older guys that wanted to pour into me, and I wouldn't listen, man, I didn't respect their wisdom. I didn't respect their life experiences. I didn't value it. I didn't. And, now I'm 42, so I'll be learning every day for the rest of my life, but I have just a tiny bit of maturity and just a tiny bit of wisdom. And I'm starting to understand the value that's there, right? Of those life experiences. And I, if I would have tapped into that type of understanding and into personal growth, at 22 instead of 42, who knows the impact it'd have, right? But let me tell you this, I'm glad I figured it out. I figured it out about at 40, right? About 2 years ago, started figuring it out. And I'm glad it was 40 instead of 70, right?
Yeah.
But so I feel like I'm kind of just now getting started. So I'm starting to dream big again. Yeah. And yeah, super exciting stuff.
So let's dive in. Got personal. So let's dive in. And you talked about you lost everything in 2007, but why don't you just give like an idea of like, if you had to put a guess on how many lots that you've developed either through paper lots and sold off or developed all the way out, how many lots would you say roughly that you've developed over the last, 19 years? Just a rough guess. Man.
Well, it's been 19 years. Well, and here, being an open book with you, there's a few years I took off because I went and worked on an internet company in the health and fitness space when the market whooped on me. But I really screwed off half those years, right? So I didn't really get my head screwed on quite right until just a few years ago. So with that said, it's, lots or units that I've been involved with or part of the acquisition and either, sold off along the way or developed and sold finished lots or built the house, whatever it may be. There's all different exit strategies, right? But it's probably just under 2,000
That's awesome.
that I've been a part of, 30 some projects.
Okay.
And so, and they're all a little different, right? They're all unique in their own way. That's the beauty of real estate is that no two deals are the same. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of experience in the field.
Nice.
And I've enjoyed it.
And right now you're
Good
selling
stuff.
a lot of your projects off to when you're trying to do 50 to 150 lot subdivisions currently. That's kind of your box, right? And then you're trying to sell those. What you're doing is you really unpack this fantastic. So I'll let you dive in, but you're selling those off to DR Hortons, the Hayden Homes, the big guys that are buying, running huge tracts that, but maybe they don't want to have they don't want to go through the entitlement process. They don't want to go through the city. They don't want to go through the rezone. So you really specialize in putting the deals together. And then one of the things you've told me before is if I won't buy it for what they're offering me, then I'm selling it. So why don't you unpack that a little bit in a good way?
Yeah. So, one of the things that really whooped on me in 2007 is that I was so far over my skis, right? Like I had, numerous lots I was developing at the time. And so I had, I owned the land. I had these huge construction loans out there, these A&D loans, acquisition development loans. And so when the market turned the way it did, I was caught, right? And so more what our model is today, and this is one of the things, I'll just share it with you. What our motto is that you shared is we'll go out there and we'll contact our different, public companies or large regionals, and we'll make them aware of deals we're working on. And if they make me an offer, we don't put them on the open market for sale, by the way. That's how to quickly destroy your project. And in my opinion, make it feel shopped and worn out. So we personally contact these different potential buyers. And our motto is if someone's willing to pay more for something than we'll pay ourselves, we sell it. Otherwise, we've bought it for that. So meaning when I get these projects, our specialty, our bread and butter is off-market deals. Like I can count on one hand the deals we've done that were for sale on the open market. They've all been deals that we have went and found. They're off-market deals. We've established that it's developable. Utilities are there. There's not, any major overlays or, there's all these boxes we check to make sure that something can be done with it. Okay. And then we specialize on putting those deals together. And then we specialize in the entitlement or the land use process, the political process of getting these projects through the process and getting them approved, right? Land use approval, meaning that, yes, the jurisdiction is stamping, yes, you can develop this property, okay? And that's a very strategic political process.
Yeah, because especially in Oregon, right? Because they say, we have a homeless problem and we need more housing, but then they make you run for 2 years to try to get shit entitled to actually build housing. And then they fight you all along the way and don't want any housing. So it's hard in that. So if you can do it in Oregon and Washington, you could probably do it anywhere.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because you're spot on, because in my opinion, and also there was a national publicly traded company that I was talking to just yesterday, and because my company, we're putting a plan in place to expand across the country at this point. And they said that exact thing. They said, Cody, if you can develop in Oregon, if you can get deals approved in Oregon, if you can deal with all the hoops and all the red tape there, they said you're going to have a heyday in other areas of the country. Because it's going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
So, which is exciting for us, right? So anyway, so then we get them through that political process. We get them approved, and then that's a lot of times where these larger, nationals or regional companies will come to us and they'll make us offers to buy these deals from us at approval. And if they make me an offer that is more than I would pay myself, I'll sell it to them at approval. Do a simultaneous close, right? Where I use their money to pay the seller and I make my rake out of the middle.
Okay.
And my margins there are substantially higher than if I go and I develop it and sell the finished lots, because the revenue number jumps up so much, right? If I sell finished lots versus an approved plat. And so that's where, a lot of magic happens. And
also unpack that with risk.
If you have
too.
that motto.
Unpack the risk there, Cody, a little bit.
Yeah. So, related to risk. Yeah. So the risk there's numerous exit strategies along the way. One is the reason you can make these 5, 6, 7-figure returns doing these land deals is because they're in the development space. Okay. So I'm not teaching, or we don't teach, how to go out and tie up a piece of farmland and flip it and make a couple $1,000, right? What we're teaching is how to go out and find deals that are developable, that can be turned into much more than they are. And you find those off market, and you can just flip those deals if you want, right? Just right out of the gate and have little cash in them and make a certain return. You can take them through due diligence and exit. You can take them through approvals and exit. You can take them through finished lots and exit. You can take them through all the way through the home building process and exit. Also, because this is some of the stuff we teach. So understand, when you exit and when you get paid are two different things. Okay, so you might decide that you don't have any capital. You don't have any capital. You don't want to risk, and so you'll just literally go tie these deals up. You'll call a guy like myself or whoever, and you'll just flip me the contract. Okay. And you might say, hey, Cody, I want a quick 50 grand just for flipping you this contract. Or you might say, and you want to get paid right there and then. Or you might say, Cody, I'll flip you the contract now, but don't pay me until you exit, right? And if you allow me to not pay you until I exit, now all of a sudden I can pay you substantially more for that deal than if you want to get paid right at the time of assigning it to me, right? Mm-hmm. So, or, maybe you have the cash flow to go and run it through a due diligence, right? We spend 10, 15, 20 grand on our due diligence process. So maybe you want to at least take it through that process before you assign it, because now you have a lot more T's crossed, a lot more boxes checked, right?
What you can do, but in there though, you also figure out that, are we doing, and guys, there's different kinds of land we're talking about flipping here. There's land that you're going by right, that you're building that's by right. So the zoning code, say you have 10 acres, the zoning code says you can get 6,000 square foot lots per acre, every lot 6,000 square feet. You do within the box, easy. Then there's other ones where you have to deal with rezoning jurisdictions and getting things approved. So there's different things that there's different risks. So, if you tie up a property that's a by right project that's very simple, yeah, he might pay you more on that because he already knows what he can do. He already knows where the margin. He knows the city has to say yes for the most part, other than they might want some more traffic lights. They might want, pump stations that there's costs that might come up down the road that might screw you. So he'll pay a little bit more, but, because there's I've tried to do a lot of development deals, and I've had like 3 or 4 of them killed because of a pump station or a traffic light or this. And it's just like, well, shit, if you would have bought that contract at that point, then all of a sudden you find out, 3 months later through due diligence, the project's not feasible. You're screwed. You bought a worthless call option. Yeah.
Yeah. The sooner you want to get paid, the less you're going to make, right? Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I should make a note. We never close on any development deals until approvals, because if we don't go in, our deal is not like house wholesaling where I'm trying to find desperate owners that I can rip their property from them for below market value so I can make a spread. I mean, I'm not saying all house wholesalers are that way, but that's kind of, it's kind of the game, right? So our whole deal is what we do and what we teach is we're not trying to go out there and rip deals. We're paying market value for these deals. But understand, we don't close until approvals. If you want me to pay for a diamond, I got to make sure it's a diamond, and it's not a diamond until I verify that it's a diamond, right? And so same with these land deals, these development deals. They're not truly developable until the jurisdiction stamps them that they're developable, right? So we never close on these deals until we have the subdivision approved, ever, okay? The only way you're going to ever catch me closing on a piece of land in the development space prior to it being approved is if you want to sell it to me for today's as-is value. Example, there's a piece of land that I bought in 2015. It's 20 acres. I can put 90 lots on it. And I paid 25 grand an acre for it. And I closed on it, it was a quick close. Well, developable land in that area sells for $300,000 to $400,000 an acre, right? So for me, it was
today or 2015.
Today, even back then, really back then, back then it was 300 grand an acre. But I knew I had to wait for a sewer trunk line to go in, right? So it was already zoned for development. I did a quick due diligence, on wetlands, and did my geotech and all these different things. And so I just waiting for that sewer line. But it was already zoned for development. I did layouts. I knew I could get 90 lots. And so I closed on it, right? I paid the $500,000, closed on it. And so right now I'm actually in the process of, it's out for receiving it. I'm supposed to receive 4 LOIs this week, actually, on that deal, all from publicly traded companies.
Nice.
And so anyways, that's the only way I would close on something now, is if I'm just paying as is, like farm values, right?
Gotcha.
But anyways, yeah. So I mean, but the beauty of whether if you're exiting right after you execute the deal, you're exiting right after due diligence, or you're exiting at approvals, in any of those scenarios, you're not taking the crazy risk of closing on the land and taking on the development risk, the multi-million-dollar construction loans, right? That's where you get whooped on, right? So, and that's what we do, but we're very particular, right? And it's a high risk, high reward game at that point. But up until closing on the land and going and pulling that acquisition and development loan, the risk is, let's just say, it's substantially less, right?
Yeah, because your due diligence, maybe, for your 90 to 120 day due diligence, you're maybe at 10 to 20 to 30 grand, depending on how big it is. Okay, you agree on the due diligence, then you need to go take it through approval, right? So then you got more time on that maybe that's 6, 12 months or whatever, but maybe to run all the engineering, all the studies, have all the plat maps drawn, everything ready to be rubber stamped, you might be a couple $100,000. But you still, you're a couple $100,000. So you're making more investments over the, throughout the cycle, but you're not buying this land and then because it's expensive, guys. I mean, just in my area alone, it's $30,000, $35,000 a lot to develop, not including land costs. So if you have 100 lots, that's $3.5 million, just to develop it, not even including the purchase of the land, everything. And then, so there's a lot.
Our average deal right now is running 80 a lot for hard and soft costs to develop.
Yeah.
And that's where the big risk is. So, yeah, I mean, so like you said, let's just say I take a deal through approvals and it costs a couple $100,000, right? Well, I can give you example after example of what we've turned that $200,000 into. But all of a sudden, if you go and develop it, I can think of a few deals where we've been in them, say $200,000-$300,000 at approval, but all of a sudden, if to close on the land, get the A&D loan, go develop it, now you need an additional, above that $200,000 or $300,000, you need an additional $1 million of equity you got to put into it, or capital, to get the loan, and then now you're on the risk for a $5 million, $6 million loan, and that's where it can hurt. And so, here's the thing is, if you don't have the 200, I mean, go knock on Elliot's door, or go knock on your friends and family door, or whatever it may be, because you can bring guys into these deals with you to put up that 200. And understand though, it's risky 200 because you don't own the land yet, but the returns are off the charts.
Yeah. And that's big deal.
Because you're taking a piece of farmland and you're getting it approved for development. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not going and trying to get Mary Jo's house for 20 grand below market value so I can flip it and make $5,000. We're taking land that's worth 10, 20, 30,000 an acre, and we're turning into a land that's worth 3, 4, 500,000 an acre, right? Through this political process. And so you go land a killer piece of property, you go find it, you put it together, you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you're wasting everybody's time. Okay. Yep. So you got to know how to price these deals. You got to know how to structure them. You got to know what to look for, because I've had so many people call me, try to flip me deals, and all they're doing is wasting their damn time. They're misleading the property owner. They're creating artificial expectations. They're wasting their own time because they don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yep.
Get educated before you come play this game, because all you're doing is getting in my way, right? But if you get educated, now you can put these deals together correctly. And I'm excited to write you a 5-6 figure check, right? Because you brought something to the table. You brought value. You delivered me a deal on a silver platter that I otherwise wouldn't have.
Yep. And guys, and I think that's really super important. So what because I think I told you, Cody, I've been working on getting into development. I've been doing a lot of other things as well. But what I did, guys, we got some property that we own that we're developing currently right now. And looked at some other things, but I went and found a builder developer in my town that knew what he's done. He's done projects, and I actually screwed up. I've talked about this before. I found the bigger guy that was too big at first. Now I found a mid-level guy that's awesome, that's doing 20 to 40 lot subdivisions. So I'm partnering with him, what I'm really good at, the marketing, the sales, all that stuff. And actually he's going to then, once we get it, we're going to both finance, put the money in together. And then he's going to actually take it through approval because that's what he's good at, and then we're going to split the profits at paper lots. And then if he wants to take it and then go develop it and build it, by all means, I can either stay in that deal, keep my money in that deal and say, I'll take a little bit more on the back end, or just get me out at paper lots, call it a good day. But I'm finding somebody. So I'm adding value because I'm good at finding deals and he's good at doing that. And I can learn along the way. Or another thing you can do is you can pay some coaching or things like that. But there's two different ways to do this. But go find the guys that are doing, building, developing in your town, and just say, hey, I don't need anything from you right now. I'm going to go find deals. Give me your buy box of what you want to find. And I'm going to go find you deals and land deals. And then let's see how it goes from there.
Absolutely. Yep. Amen. That's awesome. Yeah. As long as you know how to price them and you know what to look for and you know how to structure those deals. Putting those deals together, you bring so much value to the table. Because see what I'm trying to say, Elliot, like that example you just shared, you're bringing value to that relationship and to that deal.
Yep.
Because if it wasn't for you, that deal wouldn't exist. Yep. Okay. So that's value. We call it being a land acquisition specialist, right? Yep. So you bring value to the deal. The value has nothing to do with you beating the property owner up and trying to rip their property. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's what to me excites me and allows me to sleep well, because I'm not just beating up Mary Jo or taking advantage of the elderly or whatever it may be so that I can make a buck.
Yeah. And the great thing is, so like with my guy, Rudd, what I'll do is I'll start working these leads and be like, hey, Rudd, where do we need to be on this? Here's the address. Here's my notes. Here's all this. And he'll be like, hey, sewer's right here. Here's what I think can get approved. I got this property approved like this 2 weeks, 6 months ago. I know this. Here's kind of where we need to be, price, area. Elliot, go figure. He does a quick email, gives me a quick rundown of where we need to be. I go communicate with the homeowner. I learn along the way of pricing things better. You're adding value. So I'm doing all the legwork. All he's doing is just looking at deals and giving a quick feedback instantly. And he says, yes, no, or yeah, let's work this lead. And then we go from there. And once I get it tied up, then all of a sudden his job starts and we work together. But he's got somebody bird dogging for him. And he's just, so you got to go find somebody you trust that they're not going to steal the deal from you or whatever, or you got to be trusted.
That was the key word right there.
Yeah. You got to, but you got to find the right guys. But this is how I started even with wholesaling. I found one guy that would, I would send him the address. I'd send him the pictures and be like, what would you pay for this? And I'd try to get it for less, and if I got it for less, I made a spread. If I didn't, whatever, I did a deal. So, go find those guys and add value to them. And then all of a sudden, then you're that guy, right?
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
and through that process, right? Because, we built up enough capital,
yep.
To then be able to kind of do our thing. So I think that's great. And the biggest thing I want people to understand is what we're talking about here is the development world and the development space, land development, right? There's huge money to be had in this space. And that's what kind of separates it from some of the other models out there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because there is value, there's equity created by running this process.
Yeah. I mean, I have a good buddy, Artem Templar. He's building tons of apartments, 9 figures worth of apartments going up down in LA. He's got a buddy that will he'll go find some lots that market value, go get them entitled for a 15, 20 unit apartment building in LA and go sell it off. Never actually close on a piece of dirt. Just get it through the approval process, clipping 7 figures, $1 million, $2 million checks to spin it to guys that are ready because it's shovel ready, and your risk is really minimal, guys, at the end of the day. And that's why this strategy, and there's a lot less noise and competition. But I want to dive into after this, but after this conversation, this part about where you think the business is going, because there's a lot of uncertainty in this world right now. And I know after 2008, 9 or whatever, there's so many developers that got just freaking annihilated that it's really shrunk the supply over the years. And that's a lot of the reason why we're seeing housing go so up. So, because like you went and started an internet business for 4 years, weren't doing development. So there's all that backlog for 3-5 years of guys that weren't doing any development. So seeing where you're at moving forward in this crazy world we're living in.
Yeah. You got that right. So are you asking me where I see this, like, say, over the next 5 years? What do I see?
Okay, let's speak it to like Elliot. So you want to get into land develop. I want to do more land development, but I also have a family. I don't want to put my nuts on the line. Where's the risk portfolio profile here? How much runway do you think we have? And how do you protect your downside so you don't, like you lost 90% of your net worth in 2007? How do you protect yourself moving forward?
All right, podcast listeners, I want to take a quick break and I want to tell you about something I'm very passionate about, and that is our Deal Finders Academy, or the DFA, as many of you have probably heard me refer to it as. Now, the DFA has been around for almost 7 years, which is amazing that we've had it around that long, and we've had one hell of a track record with some of the biggest names from across this business having been a part of the DFA or are still a part of it today. And some of those names, just to drop a few on you, are Justin Silverio from Open Letter Marketing, Ryan Dossie from Call Porter, Jason Nickel from a little company called Lead Sherpa, Anson Young from Bigger Pockets, of course, many of you know him. How about Robert Hyder and Philip Vincent, two fine gentlemen from the greater St. Louis area who need no introduction, are very well known. How about Mr. Danny O'Bannon, the original Spokane project, a guy that I pulled back out of a day job and turned him into a crazy successful real estate investor. And of course, Artem Templar, who's building hundreds of millions of dollars worth of multifamily all over the greater Los Angeles area. And of course, last but not least, both Cole and Elliot, who are now the hosts of this show. So as you can see, the list goes on, and there's so many other people that I didn't mention there that I've gotten the good fortune of getting to know and that are a part of the community now that are just amazing people and even more amazing investors. But for you that are a listener of the show that may be thinking, hey, you know what? I might be interested in joining that group. Here's what you get, right? Well, number one is you get to be a part of this amazing community. You get the connections. You get everything that comes along with a small and very tight-knit type mastermind, a group that isn't so big that you feel like you can't converse with people, you can't have conversations, because that's where you kind of get lost in the weeds. You want one that is just big enough that it's got reach and you've got these people that you can connect with that are amazing in their own right, but not so big that you just feel overwhelmed. And that is exactly what the DFA is. We have about 120, 125 people in the group, which is just the perfect size. And the reason why it stays at that size is because we don't overlap investors, right? one investor per one area. And that's why most people stay with us for a very long time, because by being a part of the group, you get access to all of our secret marketing strategies, negotiation strategies, tips, tricks, everything else you could possibly think of, so that you can have those competitive advantages in your area and also be able to utilize the network that the DFA is, which, as you can tell, it's an amazing network. I do business with lots of people that have been in it or are currently in it right now, and plenty of other people in the group have made lifelong friendships and business partnerships within the group also. So if you're interested in joining the DFA, which I strongly encourage you to do, go to thedealfindersacademy.com, book a call, you'll chat with Dan, we'll see if we've got room in your market for you, and if we do, we'd love to make you our next DFA member.
I mean, we've all heard it: high risk, high reward, right? So the less risk tolerance you have, the less reward you can expect, right? You got to make sure that your risk and your reward line up, right? You can't be, hey, I don't want to take any risk, but I want to get all this reward. Like, come back to planet Earth. Like, let's live in reality. Yep. Okay. So, but I would say, and I don't want to discount getting these deals through approval. I mean, it depends on the size of the deal, right? One deal might take 50 grand, another deal might take 500 grand. Like, every deal is different, but I don't want to discount that, how much money that is. At the same time, that money relative to the deal that's being put together, the project that's getting approved, it's a drop in the bucket. Okay. And so the best way to, in my opinion, to control your risk would be learn how to do acquisition, learn how the approval process works, bring in a financial backer. You find the deals, you run the process, have them put up the money to get the deals approved, and you guys have a model of simultaneous closing and selling out of these deals at approval without taking on the debt. Yeah. That, to me, is the sweet spot of risk reward in the game that we play.
Yeah. And shameless plug, guys, for Cody. When we were golfing, Cody knew what I was doing. And he said, hey, Elliot, just so you know, I'm buying in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and Arizona land deals. I want 50 to 150 lot subdivisions. Bring me the deal. We can find a way to partner on it, and my team will take it through approval. And so, that got me thinking. I'm doing some stuff in Boise with some guys, and I tell this lady, I'm like, hey, I'm looking for 50 to 150 lot subdivision, potential in Boise, just so you know, because I got Cody in my back pocket, and I can be like, hey, Cody, I got this deal. Maybe I don't make as much as Cody would make on the deal, but at the end of the day, I learned the process, right? And I can partner with a proven guy in this, uncertain world right now. I can prove with a guy, so I'm not dicking around with this for 2 years and just screwing it all up. I'm got somebody that's educated, knows how to get these things done in certain areas. So whether it's Cody, on the West Coast, or it's somebody else on the East Coast or Midwest, I mean, find that guy that and that really will take a lot of your risk profile down as well, in a lot of ways. And then selling it off to these big builders that are publicly traded, I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, they're the ones taking most of the risk.
Yeah. And I will tell you, I can't think of the last time that I went into a deal and I didn't already know what my exit strategy was before I went into it, right? I always know what my strategy or my plan is for exit before I ever enter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's all connection. I mean, it's all connections. And here's the reality. If you're a guy that's putting together deals, all the boys want to know you. Yeah. Okay.
Not in that way, but but yeah, the guys that want, develop, they want to know.
Deal flow is the masterpiece, right? Like, deal flow, it's all about deal flow. So if you're going to create deal flow, they want to know you.
Yeah. Bird dog. So, and, people talk about being bird dogs for, ugly houses. Shit. You're way more valuable getting started in this business as a bird dog for land development. That is where the constriction is right now in this world. There is no developable land. There's no lots. That's why prices are going so crazy. That's why inventories are so low. That's why we're in a very imbalanced market. this is where you guys want to get out of the noise a little bit, start going there here in a lot of ways. And I'm not trying to rabbit trail in a different direction, guys, but I think this is a very missed opportunity that hasn't been talked about on the bigger pockets of the world for the last 6-7 years.
It's a total blue ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a little niche, and a lot of guys have been asking me recently, Cody, you have this niche, no one's doing it. I mean, relative, right? I mean, why are you out there wanting to talk about this stuff and teach it and, provide this great content? And I can tell you with an absolute clear conscience, as the Lord is my witness, looking at you straight in the eyes through Zoom, that it's kind of our way of giving back, right? It's our way to have an impact, to make a difference. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's business to it as well, right? I mean, that's not the only reason I went and, started teaching this stuff, but like, to me, I'm finding a ton of fulfillment in outflow, right? Like outflow, like Elliot, even getting to know you a little bit and just the few little nuggets maybe you've gotten from me that you've said you valued. Like, I really appreciate that, man. Like that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
but it's also, it's also capitalistic too, right? Though, Cody, because you are teaching people that, in you got your course that you sell. Well, we're not plugging that by any means, but then you're saying you're going nationwide, right? You want to, you start putting deals together. So then all of a sudden you're getting all these people that are looking for deals nationwide that say, well, I know Cody's going nationwide. Let me ping Cody, so you're creating your own bird dogs. I mean, but you're also helping change people's world. So it's a win-win situation, right? Yeah. In that sense. And it's just like, but you're adding value out first and then it will come back to you, but you're taking that risk and adding value first instead of just, doing that way.
Yeah. And we haven't even launched our inner circle, right? So it's because that is right. Eventually there's, people will be bringing us deals across the country, right? And we already got people calling us, or contacting us constantly wanting to bring us deals. And right now we're not entertaining that because we're not ready, right? Until I know I can do a phenomenal job and be thorough and do the job right, we haven't opened those floodgates yet. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not a part of the vision or the business model, because it is. Yeah. But we launched our education company about 1.5 years ago, and we haven't opened up those floodgates yet because we're not ready. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a vision to it, no question. Yeah. But I'll tell you, when I have a student that, my team lets me know we have a student that inked a deal where they're going to make $500,000, flipping a deal to a public. Dude, like when I heard that, I got emotional, right? Like, and I'm not an emotional dude. Like
you say that, but last time we hung out, you were crying on my shoulder for hours. I mean, yeah.
But I'm just saying, I mean, that's where life gets fun, right? When you really are focused on your outflow.
Cool. So let's change gears here and go into our part of the show where we're going to go. It's called our Real Deal show. So we're called the Real Deals podcast. So we want a real deal. So we want you to kind of dissect a real deal, kind of from start to finish, the challenges in between. What was your expected profit? What did you end up making? Something that's not your biggest check, but, just to be flashy, but something that's a real deal that would encompass what we've talked about for the last 45 minutes really well.
So, I mean, I have here's the reality. I have numerous deals where I've made 7 figures being a developer. I have numerous deals where I've made 7 figures selling at approval and doing a simultaneous close, right? But instead of just being all flashy and showing you these big 7-figure deals, right? And you can go on, go Google me, right? And there's videos on there us showing flashy 7-figure checks, okay? But how about I'll share with you a deal example that is within touch or within reach of almost anybody that's listening to us.
Perfect. I think that's a great example. Let's do that one. Okay. So like just do acreage, the whole thing, kind of how many lots, the breakdown.
Okay. So And I got to be a little careful how detailed I go, because just for confidentiality reasons.
That's fine.
I'll go as deep as I can. Okay.
Yeah. No.
So this was a deal. It was, oh man, it was 30 some. This is about 2 years ago. It was about 30 some lots. Okay. I think it was 35 or something like that. And what I did is I tied this deal up.
How'd you find it? How'd you find it?
We bird dog it. I mean, we have a system, we have a process, criteria that we create jurisdiction by jurisdiction, that we work with public records to identify properties that meet our criteria. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we took two property owners, we put it together into one project. And the way we put both those deals together was not by driving around looking for land that I can maybe develop. We do everything through technology. We're a virtual business. We're remote. We cold called these people and we put the deal together. Okay. Both property owners. All right. And this particular deal, I think I spent maybe like $15,000 on my due diligence. All right. And halfway through my due diligence, I came to realize this project was going to be much different than what I expected. Okay. And that's why due diligence are so important. This particular deal didn't hit my requirements as far as KPIs, matrix, whatever you want to say. Right. So what I did is I identified different guys in town that this inventory, this lot inventory would mean something to, meaning they need this inventory to feed their machine, right? To keep their business going. See, I don't need to go develop just to be a home builder, right? Like we're a developer first, home builder second. So actually in the last couple of years, I haven't even built any homes because I've been selling all my deals. But and that proves that we're a developer first. But with that said, I more than likely knew this guy would be willing to do this deal at a lower margin than I would, because he wanted the lots to feed his home building machine. Hmm. So this particular deal, from the time I inked it to the time I got paid, halfway through my due diligence, I knew the deal wasn't going to work for me. Started calling guys in town that I thought it might work for. Lo and behold, hooked a guy. It was perfect. He needed the deal. He wanted the deal. He was willing to accept the deal based upon the margins we were showing. And we received a check for a little over $300,000. And I was into the deal for give or take 15 grand. And I was in and out within 90 days. Okay. So you show me how that's possible in the fix and flip world, or you show me how that's possible in the house wholesaling world. Right. And I'll eat my words, but I have a feeling I'll be waiting a long time because you can't show me those deals. Right. That's just one example. And that's not even my business model. Right. I mean, we teach it. We've done it a lot of times over the years, right? Over the 19 years, but that's not really our model as much anymore. And because that was the last deal I did that structure this cycle, right? I've only done one deal that way this cycle because I'm running the deals through approvals or I'm developing them. Yeah. But there's not a right or wrong answer. You just got to see what's my risk tolerance. What's my resources, right? And then we just set up your plan, your model relative to where you're at. And that's why it's so beautiful. There's 5 exit strategies. Yeah. And so you can exit right up front if you want. No problem, man. All good. Just know how to put together good deals. And you can just step away, bring it to a guy like me, right? But I tell you what, if you're not hungry, if you don't need that quick cash, let me not pay you until I exit. And now instead of me paying you 5 figures, I might be paying you 6, right? I mean, the chance of me paying you 7 figures is somewhat unlikely.
Yeah, unless you're like buying something in downtown New York City, and there's
you understand my point. It's all relative.
Yeah, unless there's a 9-figure profit to it. But yeah, I think that's why this thing is just really, really great, guys. And I think you should, follow Cody and go find out more about this kind of stuff for sure. So all right. So switching gears, that's a great deal example, by the way. And that's why I really like the development. And I've talked to my partner, Rudd, is there's just different ways I can get out, in different, areas based on, and it's not even financially sometimes, guys, it's mental bandwidth. How much mental bandwidth do you have at the time, right? Maybe you have a bunch of flips going on, but you got this deal and it's like, okay, I'll just stay in this and, partner some of the money in there. And then this guy can take it there and I can make more money down the road. And so it's just, there's a lot of mental, it's not just always financial bandwidth getting started. So Cody, kind of wrapping up here, we like to really talk about having one action item that we do, we have the guests give every week. And this action item is something that somebody could do today in their business, whether they're brand new, just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, just trying to get started, and they hear this show and they want to go do land development. Or they've been doing wholesale, fix and flips, off market for 7-10 years. They've maybe dabbled in land development, whatever. They've done something. What is one thing that can cross all those platforms that you would do on a daily basis that somebody could implement today?
So I have a tendency to want to go personal on this type of thing.
No, not personal. Business.
You want to, because my things I do personally make me a better businessman, right? Like if I'm healthy as an individual, if my mind's right as an individual, I'm going to be a much more successful businessman. So a lot of my daily routines or things that I'm intentional about that I do every day are more for me as a man or an individual, which then make me better in my business. But so I won't go there, even though that's where I have a tendency to go with people. If I was to be specific to the business world or land development or whatever it may be, is to be consistent. Fill your funnel, okay? You want to go do land deals? You want to go make the 6-7 figure returns with very little risk, with a huge return on investment? Don't expect to make one damn cold call and it's all going to come together. It could happen. Now you might get lucky and just pop it right away, right? In the first week of cold calling. Good for you. Don't have that expectation. You might spend months and months and months and months and months hammering the phones, cold calling, sending out mailers, whatever it may be. But you got to be consistent and disciplined. Don't expect to become a millionaire overnight. These get rich quick crap I see on social media repulses me. Okay. Put in the work, fill the funnel, be consistent. And if you consistently every day are filling your funnel with leads and calls and mailers, mark my words, eventually a deal's going to come out the other end of the funnel. But don't expect it overnight. If you're wanting it overnight, wrong game for you.
Yeah, go work at Google or Amazon or something. So guys, if I can unpack that's something I talk about all the time. So say you're working let's just take the first guy. Say you're working a job and you want to go do land development. Okay. You can go find parcels of land on your GIS, your maps, your assessor, all these things. Go find, 2 to 15 acre pieces and then go write them down and then go skip trace them, get their phone numbers. And for an hour a night, just sit there on a single line dialer and go call those people and see if they're interested in selling their land for an hour a night, 5 days a week, or, whatever, however many hours a week you can set aside. That's a very manageable side, and go do that. And then just do it consistently until you get something happens. And I can't tell you, I give that advice every day to guys that want to use our call center, but they're not ready yet. I get emails once, twice a week. They're like, people are saying, I actually took your advice. I did this. Within 2 weeks, they're talking to somebody about a deal. 3 weeks, they're talking, it works, but it takes time. Same with cold calling, same with direct mail. You have to budget your time and your money for 3 to 6 to 9 months, depending on where you're at in this country. So do it. right there. And if you're an experienced guy and you want to do land development, you either do it yourself or put somebody on your team that you have an inbound sales guy, for an hour a day. Your only job is to cold call land stuff. And so at the end of the day, they're going to start filling your funnel. It's all about deal flow. You got to look at you got to kiss tons of frogs before you find your prince, like me, and Cody, we're both princes, but it takes time, right? To do that, and then just keep working those and go build your relationships going forward. Would you say that that's a pretty accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, how could you expect it not to take time, right? Like, come on. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of handouts. So like, put in the sweat, right? Put in the work, and but also be aware of the sacrifices you're making along the way. Like I got to throw that in there, right? Because we're all in different phases of life. Some of us have family, some of us don't, and just be aware of your overall life and what you're doing and how it's impacting other areas or sacrificing other areas. But yeah, don't expect to have your examples like I'm sharing if you're not going to be consistent and put in the work. It's just you're just never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Hey, Cody, I know we didn't really talk about this going on, but maybe what we can do is to get people kind of going, since this isn't really talked about out there. Maybe I know we don't want to give your contracts away or anything like that or anything crazy, but do you have like maybe a sample LOI that you use that you might be willing to share with our guests? Like if we can, send that out to our guests, that people want to ping us and get a sample LOI of, something they could take for a letter. That's a letter of intent, guys. It's not a contract. It's just something saying, hey, I want to date you. You want to date me on your land stuff, or something that we can give to our guests, to maybe help you grow your channel as well.
Yeah. I can probably get you guys something even better than that, right? Because I'll just tell you straight up, my LOI, I think LOIs in a lot of ways are a joke because they're not contractual. And like some of my competitors, they'll have property owners sign LOIs. I don't even have property owners sign my LOI, right? Like my LOIs are like, it looks like a 2-year-old put them together. They're so basic. They're so simple because they don't mean anything anyways. So, I could definitely give you my LOI, but there's not going to be a ton of value there because it's so basic. But I can reach out to my VestRight team, which has just tons of content, and we can figure out a cool PDF to provide you guys for sure that isn't just out there, just publicly necessarily. So, whether it's something like showing you timelines of all this stuff and how it works or whatever it may be, we have all kinds of things that we provide to our clients, to our students, that I'm sure we can pull a great piece of content out of there.
Yeah.
For
Something
you guys.
just to, cause it's just not talked about that much. And I think, when I started doing that, get into it, it was just like this huge unknown. And you look up stuff for land development, like land development costs or these things, or, what's the process or all these things. And it's, I had to actually go through this stuff. I got these papers of these sheets of the land development costs. They're freaking so long because there's so many items in there. They're talking about the little, the little rumble yellow strips, for the wheelchair ramps on the curbs and gutters, and your sidewalks, and your diamond plate for the street, and all these things you don't even know, and you don't even think about it. So something just outlining, what it takes to get, what the process is because it sounds easy, but there's a lot going into it. So something just to get somebody started would be really fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Totally.
So
yeah, we can do that.
Cody, man, it's been such a joy having you on here. I know we got a little heated there, guys, towards the end. We get passionate. We're a little excited. And so, follow Cody, they are doing, so it's Cody Bugan. I always
Bugan.
It's Norwegian. Bugan. Sorry. You're saved in my phone and it's still, but yeah, Bugan, VestRight. They got their company out there. They're, giving some good content away. They also have some, entry level coaching stuff that they're selling. I've taken a look at the course. I think there's a lot of good value there, for especially what you're getting. We're not trying to pitch you courses by any means, but I think, this is a space that there is a lot of good ROI if you get into that. And so, think about what you need to do, guys. As I've always said before, I've never paid any mentors other than, Tucker and the Real Dealz joining the DFA, but this is something that I would pay money for just to get a little bit better, faster, stronger, because there's so much knowledge from the last 20 years of that you've learned. So you got anything else to add, Cody?
No, I mean, I appreciate you saying all that. I can say with a clear conscience, it would have helped me speed up the process if some of these resources were available back when I got started. But, regardless, I just appreciate the kind words, and I really can't say enough. I'm just now kind of going public with myself and putting myself out there. And I just appreciate sharing this time with you and you having me on today.
Cool. Awesome. All right, guys, that's it for this show. We'll catch you on the next one. Go take action. Go do something. It's so easy to go out there and pick up a phone and start calling people, whether it's for ugly houses, land, multifamily, whatever. Go take some action today. It's so cheap. It takes time, energy. If you want to start in this business, you just got to put in some effort and you're going to see some rewards. So thanks, Cody, for jumping on, and looking forward to our relationship growing over the years.